So I'm Suzanne Bush. Like Justin said, I've been working with him for like a year and a half now, I think. And kind of what led me to iCoach was my now husband has been working with Justin for a while now. And we had gotten engaged, we were getting married, and I had many times had expressed to Joseph, my husband, just kind of frustrations with nutrition and like not really being where I wanted to be with that, and knowing that the wedding was coming up, like I wanted to look and feel my absolute best for that. And I had I've I've been pretty consistent when it comes to nutrition and fitness for a while now, at least 5 years. Like I've been following some kind of a plan in all that time and have always prioritized fitness, especially not quite as much nutrition until maybe the last 5 years. Um, but I had been like tracking my calories. I'd used Noom before to do that, and it had helped me lose a bunch of weight to do that. But I hadn't really changed anything since then. Like I was eating 1,200 calories during that time when I was using Noom, and did that for at least 2 years. And when I realized, and then I kind of started to gain some of that weight back, and I was like, well, this worked in the past. Like, why is it not working now? And was getting frustrated with like, I know this has worked before, so I don't know what has changed. And so that's kind of what brought me to iCoach was like, I know what to do, or I think I know what to do, and yet it doesn't seem to be working anymore. And I want to be sure that I have like that I can look and feel my best for when we get married. So yeah.
Which, by the way, her y'all's photos are absolutely amazing. For anybody that wants to check them out, I think they're on the blog and social media and whatnot there. But something we talked about a lot, right, was feeling confident on wedding day and having those pictures that last a lifetime. And yeah, y'all's pictures were exactly that. So
Yeah.
just so happy for you guys. Something that stood out there, which is just like mind blowing to think, you've heard me say it many, many times, which is the recommendation for a 2-year-old sedentary little girl is 1,200 calories. And here we have an adult like Suzanne eating 1,200 calories for 2 years. And so this is, unfortunately something that I run into a lot. You see this with different programs like Optavia and Red Mountain Weight Loss and just, I mean, you name it. There's so many diets that are out there where that's like the standard for not just women but men as well. They'll put clients on a 1,200 calorie diet, and the reality of it is it's like if we really break it down and we really think about it, it's like you are paying for this company or this coach or whatever to like literally just starve you to death ultimately.
Yeah. Like
Um,
it'll work. You'll lose weight. And I did. I lost a lot, but it's not sustainable. And
right.
yeah, you have to figure something else out to
Yeah.
keep it going.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I'm glad we're on the other side of that, my
Yes.
friend.
Thank you.
So, in prep for this podcast, I was kind of looking over our initial questionnaire and just kind of like going through all the notes from our time working together. And the mantra, if you remember that you had kind of put down there was present, right? And so what did that word kind of mean for you then? And then how has that word evolved for you throughout this journey of working together?
Yeah. I think last year in particular, I kind of chose that word because I was going through the process of preparing for a wedding, which can be stressful. And but I realized this is something that ideally you only do once. And it's supposed to like getting married is one of the most important events that anybody can go through in their lives. Like, and so I wanted to like try to focus as much as possible on being present, even in those times of like having to plan detailed things and having things not work out the way I wanted them to be present and enjoy that process. all leading up to the actual wedding day, because it shouldn't just be a stressful thing. It should be fun because of what it's leading up to. And so that was kind of why I wanted to focus on that last year. But I think that that carries over all the time, really, because that's something I struggle with all the time, no matter what's going on in life, is just being in the moment, not trying to think too far into the future and trying to control what happens, and worrying about detail, worrying about plans. It's more just like trusting that things are going to work out the way they're supposed to, and they always do. And so just trying to stay in the present and enjoy things as they are right now.
Hmm. I love that. Yeah, I mean, I love the mindset because ultimately, I say it all the time, when we go through a journey like this, especially when we're combating, whatever, 30, 40, 50 years of habits and beliefs and traits and skill sets, it's like, it's not going to just change in a week or in a month. We really do have to, try to fall in love with the process and with the journey. And so much of that is being present and enjoying it. And not just being so hyper focused on the end result or the end goal. Because the reality of it is there's no end date with this. I mean, you're like living a
Mhm.
healthy lifestyle. This is something that we want to do for the rest of our lives. And so, yeah, I love that. I think that's something that should be shouted from the mountaintops here. A lot of people need to hear.
Mhm. Yes.
So going back to the 1200 calorie piece, this
Mhm.
is, we talked about kind of like quote unquote restoring your metabolism, right? And so, it's one thing to hear this, right? And maybe even for it to make sense, but I work with a lot of women, and for me to come in and tell you that you need to eat more food, that can sometimes be scary, right? And so what was it like kind of, starting that process of eating more, and how were you able to kind of like just be coachable and trust the process through that journey?
Yeah, I remember when we were first starting out and I had been trying to stick to like 1200 calories, and you told me you should really be eating more like 1900 calories. And at first I was like, on the one hand, like, how can that possibly work? Like, from everything that I've always heard about, like, you just need to eat less, always, especially as a woman. But then on the other, I was like, if I do move to this, that would be so freeing to be able to do that too, because like it, trying to stick to 1200 calories is so limiting. And like, yeah, and I love food. I love to eat. And so like I did kind of have to trust that, like, you have all this training, all this experience, you know what you're talking about, helped all kinds of people with the same issues before. And so it must work. And if nothing else, I get to eat more. And that's exciting. And so it was weird. Like, it was definitely not the advice that I'm used to, but it was kind of exciting at the same time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Definitely, it's definitely hard. I mean, but now, I mean, on the other side of it, you're in a place where, I mean, you're fueling your body properly, and to your point, like you've got more of a budget to work with, right? I mean, eating
Yeah.
1200 calories a day, I mean, that's like being in
Goes
prison,
so
food
fast.
prison.
Yeah.
And so, just a lot more flexibility with your diet, and being able to, navigate things like travel. I mean, you guys love to travel. You'll travel to so many amazing places, Australia, New Zealand here recently, right? And so especially on trips and vacations, as we're coming into the holidays, just having more, kind of quote unquote metabolic flexibility, more of a budget of calories to work with, absolutely is so much more sustainable. So I
Yeah.
love it. Um, so I guess my next question would be is when you kind of think back to your mindset in those first few months, how did your mindset around food and health begin to shift in those first few months? Because again, you're going from a place of, just ultimate restriction of 1200 calories to now, starting to learn how to, essentially reverse diet your calorie intake up, get to a place where, you're building up your metabolism again and really learning how to fuel your body properly.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the other part that I kind of had to learn was like it's really easy to eat 1900 calories worth of just junk. Like that's easy. But if you're really having to focus on actually things that are good for you, and then it's actually not that easy to eat that much. Like some days I was having a hard time eating up to that amount because for one, I was used to eating so much less, and so my appetite hadn't really caught up. And for another, it was hard to not just want to fill that with a bunch of snacks and not have balance in my meals and learn to really like eat a lot of protein too, which is never something that I even paid attention to before. It was kind of just like, try to eat healthy, but I was mostly just focused on eating as little as possible and trying to stay within that very limited budget that I had. And so it was not just how much I eat, but what too, without being super restrictive at the same time.
Yeah.
Also
No,
not.
it's a great, yeah, I mean, it's a great point. I mean, I bring it up all the time as like I'll have clients come to me that are eating, whatever, 3,000 calories a day, but they're eating out for the majority of their meals, fast food, restaurant food, whatever. And then all of a sudden now we start getting them cooking the majority of their own food. They're eating more nutrient dense whole foods. They're eating an adequate amount of vegetables and fruits and getting that dietary fiber and then the protein. And then now all of a sudden they're telling me they're full off 1,500 calories, right? And so it just goes to show. I mean, these restaurants, these foods are engineered to be these hyper palatable foods. I could go down and throw down Chick-fil-A or whatever and eat 3, 4, 5,000 calories without even trying. Especially at restaurants, especially some of these amazing restaurants that we get to enjoy when we go on vacation and whatnot. And so yeah, it's a huge shock when you start to really understand the fact that there's two sides of the equation here with nutrition. It's both food quality and food quantity. We've got to pay attention and prioritize both there. So I love it. So you were honest, early on, and I run into this obviously with a lot of clients as to like feeling, too busy to prioritize your health, right? And so how did you overcome that barrier? Because obviously, you're somebody that takes their career very, very serious. You're super busy with that aspect of your life. It wasn't like this was the only thing in your life that you had to focus on, right? So how did you navigate kind of being too busy to prioritize your health?
Mhm. Yeah, I do remember at the beginning that was a hard adjustment of like truly making this a habit and like being kind of overwhelmed, especially by the habit tracker at first, because I was already used to using like MyFitnessPal or other kind of tracking tools, but that's just one thing. That's just one aspect of the habit tracker. And so um it did feel kind of overwhelming at first. But then the more I kept doing it and actually prioritizing it, it like anything that's new, it became easier over time and just became more part of my routine. And yeah, and I didn't at first I didn't take quite as seriously seeing on the habit tracker like things that were not checked off. I was kind of like, oh, that's okay. I'm just getting started. But then the more I would do it, the more motivated I would feel. Like I don't like leaving things unchecked on there or not feeling like I can say, yes, I did that. And so that got easier and more, I felt more accountable to it over time.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and I think it's like anything when we first start, we will be met with resistance, right? Because we're being asked to do something that we haven't been doing, right?
Mhm.
But as the definition of insanity goes, that doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, well, that's insanity, right? And so, the tracking absolutely is the most important part of getting results because it's what gives us the black and white data to be able to assess. And if we don't track, then we're ultimately just guessing. And even for you, I mean, you had come from tracking your food, which is more than what most people do. I mean, most people don't track their food, they don't track their habits, they don't really track anything at all, and so they're
Mhm.
just constantly guessing. And obviously that doesn't lead to success, especially long term there.
Yeah.
Um, so, one of the big wins here was learning consistency, even during these busy seasons of your life. I mean, you mentioned obviously the wedding, travel, social events. So what helped you find balance instead of perfection throughout this coaching journey? Because I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with. They treat their health as this like on and off switch, right? They're
Hmm.
either on a diet or they're not. They're either working out or they're not. But as we've talked about, it's more of kind of like a temperature gauge. Some seasons of life, you're going to be able to ramp up the intensity, and sometimes you're going to have to ramp it down. So what kind of helped you find balance instead of perfection throughout this journey?
Yeah, I remember last year in particular, like anytime we would have kind of a wedding related event or a trip or anything like that, where you can't be quite as disciplined and want to be able to take full advantage and celebrate fully with that, I would struggle with feeling kind of like after that, like I had blown everything, like all the work I had done leading up to that, it's just blown now. And like especially if I saw the scale go up after that. But I remember like sometimes from you having to tell me like can't think of it that way too, but also just learning like it's never too late to just get back on track with things. Like, and that's the most important thing you can do is if you do get off track and like something comes up or you just didn't feel like doing it that one day, tomorrow's a brand new day and you can start all over and pick right back up where you left off, and it will even back out if you just get back to being consistent. And that anytime I was beating myself up about it, it always helped me to just get back on track as quickly as possible. And then you see things go back to normal.
Yeah, I love it. I always say you're always just one decision away from getting right back into the routine that that serves you best, right? And that's really overcoming that all or nothing mindset that so many people struggle with.
Yeah.
I always say the mindset that's developed along the way throughout this coaching journey is ultimately what sets you up for success. And that's why it's got to be at least a year-long journey, or there's no way that mindset's actually going to change, right?
Yeah.
You'll
Yeah.
always revert back to the old mindset there. Um, so, one of the other things that we worked on, and again, it wasn't like it was some crazy, issue by any means, but just with being social and
Mhm.
y'all having friends and family and going, out to dinners and travel and everything else. You definitely worked on kind of your relationship with alcohol. And so can you share kind of what that journey looked like and how it affected your results?
Yes. Yeah. So before I kind of treated alcohol usually as a weekend thing, and both food and alcohol weekends would kind of be like, oh well, I'm just going to take it easy now and not really pay so much attention. But then that really can, if you just totally let things go on a weekend or on a trip or whatever, it can set back some of the progress that you've done, and that can be frustrating, and that's where a lot of people give up if, with having things derailed like that. um but I never, I kind of always was measuring drinking in terms of like how many drinks I have during the week or how often. And with iCoach, it's you're really trying to stick to um 2 days a week at the most, ideally less. And um and so that was new for me of really like 2 days at the most is the most I'm going to do this. And if there were times like where I actually was dieting when it got closer to the wedding, I would I would try not to drink at all. And unless there was some kind of wedding related event, otherwise was not just going to drink at home or even going out to eat or anything like that. And and that makes a difference too. Like especially if you're actively trying to lose weight and tone and all of that makes a big
Yeah.
difference. Hmm.
Yeah, I mean it's again, I think it's something that people really, run into to that struggle a lot of times. It's so easy, like coming off a stressful week, a long week, whatever, to just kind of check out on the weekend, not realizing that, Friday, Saturday, Sunday is basically half of the week, right? And so we don't really have the ability to just kind of like check out and eat whatever we want, drink whatever we want Friday, Saturday, and Sunday because yeah, I mean you could have a perfect Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday only to lose those results you just worked so hard for over the course of that weekend there. So yeah, it's an interesting world that we live in and where people are like, oh, like have a glass or two of wine every night. There's health benefits that come from that. And it's insane. It's like, guys, there's nothing healthy about alcohol. Like it is a carcinogen. It is literally a poison, but it's so common in our culture and in the world that we live in today. And it's such a big part of honestly like everything we do. I mean, I was just talking to a friend about alcohol and he was like, yeah, I mean, it's impossible for me to cut out because I'm constantly entertaining clients and that's what they're always. So it's just
Hmm.
it's interesting. But I think we could all agree that hey, alcohol doesn't make us feel better, look better, perform better. And not
You can't
everybody.
really make any arguments for health benefits for alcohol. You can make all kinds of arguments of health benefits for not drinking alcohol. And
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
100%.
like not so even now I'm trying to kind of break the habit or the mindset that like if you go out to eat, you have to have alcohol to go with it. Or if you are traveling, like if you're on vacation, like every day, every meal, you have to have alcohol. I'm really trying to break out of that pattern because it's not true. It's and you don't need it.
And you save a lot of money when you cut it out.
Yes, yes, you do, and a lot of calories.
And a lot of calories. Yeah,
Mhm.
you're healthier, you save more money. I mean, again, we could list them out, right?
Mhm.
Um, so when you entered your when you did the dieting phase this time around, especially and I mean we did a few different diet phases, right? As we kind of went through this journey of nutritional periodization. But what would you say was the biggest difference in the way that we went about dieting versus how you had gone about dieting in the past?
Um, I think I think also building in strength training during that time too was very different because when I dieted before and was sticking to such a low calorie budget, like I lost a lot of weight, but I was skinny. And this time I was dieting and eating at the end of it was eating close to that few calories, but I was still doing strength training. And so I looked skinny but strong at the same, like I actually looked more toned and more muscular than I probably have at any other point in my life. And because I was working on building muscles at the same time. And that's something I've never tried to do before. And so I got really good results, but really didn't lose that much weight. But I felt like you could still see a huge difference from where I started, from where I ended up. And I just have learned it's not so much about the number you see on the scale either. Like that could be dependent on so many different things. It's not all down to what you're eating or whatever. And so with having those scans along the way helped to see like body fat percentage and it's not just about your weight itself. There's all these other things that go into it too.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I mean it's a huge reason why the scale can't be the number one indicator of results and of success, right? Because I give the example all the time. It's like I could, take an individual, like you, where it's like, hey, you could lose, whatever 5 pounds of body fat, gain 5 pounds of muscle, and look completely different in body composition photos. And then obviously being able to see that through the body fat percentage testing as well. And Honestly, I think so many. I mean, it's better now than it used to be, but so many women really need to hear that because when they look at these women, they're like, I want to look like that. I want to look toned. I want to look, fit, whatever. It's like
And I
that.
don't think most of us really know what that means or what it takes to do that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that strength training piece is a missing link for a lot of those, a lot of people. Just because you're, quote unquote skinny, that doesn't necessarily mean you're healthy.
Mhm.
And not to mention not just the body composition, side of it, but it's like there are so many benefits that come from strength training. If you want to age with dignity, if you don't want to get osteoporosis as a woman, if you don't want to have a, fall and have a hip fracture, and then, I mean, again, I could list out 25 different things, in terms of the benefits there. It's like strength training is one of the most important habits that we could ever incorporate into our lives. And it's never too late to start. And there's so many benefits that come from it. So I love it. So we dropped body fat, we built lean muscle, we improved consistency. What would you say the number one like non-scale victory was that stood out to you throughout the journey?
Um, I think just building those habits that allowed me to be consistent over time because I think consistency really is the key to being successful in anything, really. And um like now that I've graduated the program, I know I have all these tools, I know what to do with them, and I know what works. And but I don't necessarily have to be totally reliant on all of those things too. Like I can have the confidence to know what works and to be able to apply it at any time without feeling like it's like I'll be lost without them too. And like I'll just fall back into old habits without them either. Like it just now, even now that I've graduated and am not tracking things quite as strictly as I was before, I know that I could at any time if I ever felt like I needed to again. And it's become more natural just in my daily life to not feel like I have to track them to still do them.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and that's it. That's the idea, right? We want to use these tracking tools to help us get the results we want to get, but they're not meant to be used forever. They're meant to be put into our little invisible tool belt there, and we can use
Mhm.
them, whenever we need them. But ultimately, the consistency that you've shown and being on this journey as long as you have, it's ultimately gave you the confidence and developed the skill set to be able to coach yourself moving forward. And now you've got your husband, and you guys have both gone through this journey together. And again, I would argue this is one of the most important skill sets that we could develop because it's just again living a healthy lifestyle, prioritizing living a healthy lifestyle is just something that most people don't do. And I would say, most people don't know how good they can feel until they actually start feeling that way. And when you see the benefits that come from prioritizing living a healthy lifestyle, it translates out into every other aspect of your life. And so I just love I love that y'all been on this, that y'all went on this journey here together, because y'all truly get it. You understand it. Y'all both been through it. Um, One thing you mentioned, when we first started is that and in your initial questionnaire, you had mentioned that your faith drives you to do your best. And so how has that influenced your health journey?
I think because I mean God gives us our bodies and it's our responsibility to take care of them the best that we can because that's another way of serving him too. And our bodies and our health are a gift and like it's another way to be faithful by taking care of what God has given you. It's a form of stewardship, just kind of the same way that we are responsible for the earth and creation, and we're part of that. Our bodies are part of that, and it's it's a way to it's a way to be faithful and to have that discipline as a spiritual discipline too.
Yeah, I love it. I couldn't agree more. I always present it as this table of health, right? Where we've got the spiritual leg of that table and the
Mhm.
physical leg and the mental leg, and we've got to prioritize all legs of that table because if we don't, the whole table could fall.
Mhm.
And so, you're absolutely right. It's health is an act of stewardship, and I think that sometimes, us as believers can maybe struggle with that in terms of feeling like we're like idolizing our bodies, and again,
Mhm.
that's not what we're saying here at all. But to be able to, just simply prioritize your spiritual health just as much as you're prioritizing your physical health, because everything affects everything, and it's all important. So. Um, okay, so I want to kind of bring us all together here, and kind of get some closing questions as we wrap it up. So, if you could go back and talk to the version of yourself that filled out your initial
Mhm.
questionnaire back when we first started this journey, what would you tell the Suzanne who was
Mhm.
filling that initial question out when you first started?
Oh, yeah. I think I would tell her it's not going to be easy. Like, it is going to be an adjustment to work all of these habits into your life. But if you stick with it, it's going to be worth it. And those habits, though it seems like a lot right now, it's going to get easier. And it will become more and more second nature. And so not to get too overwhelmed by the newness of it all, and feeling like it's just one more thing to do at the beginning, because it's one more thing to do that is very, very worth it.
Love it. I love it. All right. And last but not least, how would you describe iCoach Nutrition in one word? If you could pick one word to describe iCoach
Hmm.
Nutrition and your coaching journey throughout the last year and a half of us working together.
That's a good question. Um, Fulfilling is what comes to mind as the one
Feeling.
word. Yeah. Like, feel like I have accomplished what I wanted to by signing up for iCoach, and like the kind of the goals that I set at the beginning have been fulfilled, and and you've helped me to be able to do that.
I love that. I love that. I think, being able to say that, right? I mean, what a word, because ultimately, again, as I said, it's like the confidence that is gained throughout this coaching journey. It truly does translate into every other aspect of your life. I mean, some of the best comments that I hear from clients after graduating is not just, you helped me to lose the weight or accomplish my performance goals or whatever, but it's like you helped me to become a better husband, a better wife, a better father, a better mother. You helped me
Yeah.
to excel in my career. And it's not, it's not a byproduct. I mean, I don't take any of the credit. It's ultimately the work that you've done. Because when we work on ourselves and we go through this journey, it's one that allows us to become the best version of ourselves. And when we're very intentional with the life that we're living, in a way that is God honoring and in a way that is, again, in line with who we say that we want to be, you get to this place where you start to build up that integrity bank account with yourself, right? You're following through with the things that you say that you're going to do. And that's something that really builds confidence, and that confidence translates over into every other aspect of your life. And so for you to feel fulfilled after graduating iCoach University, I mean, very grateful for you and to Joseph, and just trusting me with your body and with your health. And I have full faith and confidence that you guys are going to absolutely crush it moving forward because you put in the work. I wouldn't be having you graduate iCoach University after 90 days.
Mhm.
You put in the work, you earned it, and that's something that I think a lot of people struggle with because you can't buy this. You can't buy your health. You can't buy
Yeah.
your body.
Quick fix
Um,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, it's earned, not given. So awesome. Well, Suzanne, I'm sure we could make this podcast go for hours, but I want to
Mhm.
respect your time here. But again, thank you so much for just the last year and a half and for the journey and just all the hard work that you've put in. You've been a pleasure to work with and you've been coachable. I haven't had to babysit you, and so that's always very much appreciated. So wishing you guys the absolute best. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to hop on the podcast today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for everything.